Alright, we are doing take 3 of Rom and Roll, and this is my emulation machine. I have been putting a lot of work into this. What makes this impressive is that this is an emulation machine that does not rely on RetroArch. You can certainly install RetroArch if you want, but it's not required. And we have a cute little boot logo now when it starts up. I think that's nice. I like it. And it's starting up. That's how we know it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And there we go. There's our front end. EmulationStation Desktop Edition. So let's go ahead and see. As you can see, we have a lot of consoles to go through and a lot to try. I'm not going to spend too much time. I will show a few highlights. My friend's ROM hack, Starlight, Mega Man ROM hack that he had made. It's pulling up. There we go. The emulator for this is BizHawk. And everything seems to be running smoothly. And no input lag, which is good. Texture's nice. We have one button exit. Let's go ahead and pull up Dream World Doki Doki Panic. It was the precursor to Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US. Basically, Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US is a ROM hack of this game. Go figure. And we have controls to flip disk. There we go. Oh, did I forget? I think I forgot what the controls are. There we go. I think I got it. There we go. I set my L2 and R2 buttons for the disc flip. And there's our princess character. She floats. Alright, let's go out of this one. For Game Boy, we have something new here. We actually have 2 modes for our Game Boy games. So let's go into our... No, that's not where I want to go. other settings, alternate emulator. So for the Game Boy, I have Super Game Boy mode and regular Game Boy mode. And I did that because I noticed that the Super Game Boy mode is actually a super is the Super Nintendo, and I don't have all of the neat little what is it, speed buttons, rapid fire buttons that I do for Game Boy mode. So I designed this so that way I can switch between the two. And we can quickly get to changing it by going to the metadata, changing emulator. We'll just temporarily save that so we can go over here. And as you can see, it's going into Game Boy mode. And I'm going to change this back before I forget. And as you can see, I have tons of games to choose from. Let's go ahead and test out our Game Boy Advance. This is Shantae Risky Revolution. This was actually recently released by WayForward, so yeah. Oh, it actually saved the little bit that I had started here earlier. I was not expecting that. Go ahead and exit out. Game Boy Color has two special modes too. Let's go back to our emulator settings. Other settings, alternate emulators. On Game Boy Color, we have Game Boy Color and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance mode. So there were like a select few Game Boy games for Game Boy Color that you got special features if you played it on a Game Boy Advance, which we are about to see here. It starts up as a regular Game Boy game, but there's certain rings you can get in this particular one. One where it actually explicitly says it is Shantae, because Shantae had a special bonus for playing it on a Game Boy Advance because they were trying to push the Game Boy Advance system. And we'll see that after boot, because on the title screen of Shantae, you will see a little logo that says Game Boy Advance. Game Boy Advance Enhanced. And if we go to our settings, change the metadata for alternate emulator to the default, we will not see that little logo going into Game Boy Advance mode. Or, sorry, going into just regular Game Boy Color mode. And as you can see, the little logo for Game Boy Advance is not listed there. Alright, I'm changing this back. And what I really like about this that I've set up here is that I do not need a keyboard for any of the stuff I'm doing. Alright, now we're going into our fun Game Boy, Nintendo GameCube stuff. Now we can start trying to challenge this a little bit. And there we go. It's pulled up. This is a ROM hack of Harvest Moon Magical Melody called Harvest Moon Magical Melody Rainbow Edition. Basically, you can play as a gay character, which I like. And technically, your characters are trans because when you play as the guy in this mode, you get pregnant. And yeah, I don't have anything, so no save files for this. Everything seems to be playing like it should. So we're going to go ahead and exit out. And let's go to our other thing, Wind Waker, because there's a nice little feature I set up with this. It's going to start in full screen mode, but I have a Game Boy emulator set up, so that way if I want to play on the Tingle Tuner, I can just do that. And there's a Game Boy on the side. I would need to configure a controller for that Game Boy. Right now, it is set for the keyboard, but if I wanted to have a friend come by and play with me, or if I wanted to play by myself with the Tingle Tuner, I can. And it just, there's a set of hotkeys that I programmed on the controller so I can switch back and forth between full screen and the Game Boy Advance mode. And if there was a game that did require this because I forgot to change it, I can just go to the metadata and change the mode. So this one I want to have with the Game Boy Advance connected. And yeah, any of these games that I may have forgotten to do set up the Game Boy Advance for, I can just switch back to it if I wanted. Alright, Super Nintendo. We'll go ahead and pull up my friend's ROM hack, The Seal of Rimsala, done by Sarah Sparkshine. She did an amazing job on this hack. They require so much praise for the work that they put into this. And the nice thing about this is that they designed their game so you can... I thought you could skip past this. I guess it was just the intro that you could skip past. But they did rework they did, retranslate and also added some nice quality of life features for this game to make it much more enjoyable. We've got quite a bit more to do. This also runs off of Dolphin, like the the GameCube emulator. So we'll pull this up. And it pulls up just fine. Next one is Sega CD. This one also runs on BizHawk. And the cutscene works. And now we have our Dreamcast. This is running off of Flycast. Let's pull up one of these games. Let's see, which one do we want to pull up? Let's pull up some crazy... actually, let's pull up Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Oh, I did not know Rogue was in this game. As you can see, I'm not that great at fighting games, but we have our exit mode, so we can get out. The Sega Game Gear also runs off of BizHawk. Sega Master System also runs off of BizHawk. And yes, I said it, so it would pull up the boot logo when you pull it up. I only have one game for this because I really don't know too many Master System game, but this is the first in a series I've been wanting to play. Oh, the Sega Mega Drive also runs off of BizHawk, but I also have options for this. I have 6-button or 3-button options because the Sega Saturn had 2 types of controllers, and for some of the fighting games, 6 buttons is pretty much is almost always required for playing well in it. Let's pull up one. Alright, Sega Saturn. For this, I'm using Mednafen because Mednafen just works so much better. Let's go ahead and pull up one to demonstrate. Let's pull up Sonic 3D Blast. There we go. Seems to be running just fine. Let's pull up Sakura Tyson 2. Cutscenes seem to be running smoothly. Now I did set Mednafen's sound to the default CD quality, which is 44,100 megahertz. No, kilohertz. And I then also changed the CD setting to 10 max, which is very processor intensive, but it gives the best quality. And this machine has an AMD 4.6 something gigahertz processor, so it's like I can handle it. It may be pre-Ryzen, but it's got some power behind it. Let's go ahead and get out. All right. The PlayStation emulator runs on Duckstation. Nothing really fancy with this, just it plays up, and it even has the ability to switch disk if need be. So if I wanted to change disk, I could if they were part of a list. So we'll go ahead and exit out. Well, actually, let's go ahead and resume for now. And the menu on the Duckstation is really nice because it lets you see achievements that you've already done if you are on Retro Achievements. Now, Mednafen does have a PlayStation emulator, but Duckstation is really, really good, and I cannot recommend it enough if you enjoy PlayStation games. It's really high quality, really put together. The dev who put together this emulator did an amazing job. And let's go ahead and close game. PlayStation 2. Let's go ahead and pull up one of these games. This is running off on PPSSPP, which is another really good PlayStation 2 emulator. It runs games really, really well. This is pretty much an adventure board game. I have not gotten a chance to play it, but I have a friend that really enjoys this series, so I got it for myself to eventually try out. And apparently it is a game that you can play with others because it does have, I think, up to 4 players. I could be mistaken, Maybe it's only 2, but because of it being PS2, but I know that the earlier versions of it had multiplayer for like for 3 or 4 players, and we can change disc if we need to for multi-disc games, and we can also close. So let's go ahead and close without saving. PlayStation Portable. This runs on. This is using PPSSPP, which is another really good PlayStation PSP emulator. Yes, I want to proceed. I'm just pulling this up because I know that when I played this game on the Pi, when I was using a Pi for this, it struggled. So I figured struggled trying to run the cutscene. So figured I'd pull this up for a cutscene to see how well it handles it. I know the best test would be to use something like God of War, but yeah, I don't know, God of War never impressed me. It didn't grab my attention like the other games that I have do. Anyway, it seems to be running that cutscene very well, so we'll go ahead and exit out. Bandai Wonderswan, that is running on, what is that? BizHawk as well. It's pretty much it was designed to compete with the Game Boy by the creator of the Game Boy after he left Nintendo. And the WonderSwan was supposed to be the Game Boy Color equivalent of it. Also created, but it could not compete with the Game Boy Advance. But it's got some neat little games for it. We have our PC Engine games. Only have one for this particular emulator. This is also running on BizHawk. And this particular game is basically a click and point adventure, for lack of better words. It's of a game series of an anime series I liked called Bubblegum Crash. PC Engine. This didn't get a lot of attention in the US, but it was very PC Engine's CD-ROM was very popular in Japan, and it's got a few gems on it. Most notably, Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which is the precursor to Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Vor langer Zeit lebten die Menschen glücklich und zufrieden.
Anyway, and let's go ahead and show a few others before I go. The DS also runs off of BizHawk. Once I get a tablet, I will be able to play these games, but there are some games that don't require a tablet. I just wanted to go ahead and show one of these here. Looks like you can choose a bunch of different characters. This is really cute, honestly. Next one is Nintendo 64. It runs on Mupin, but I'm using Rosalie's Mupin GUI to run this because honestly it is just a lot less hassle to use. Let's run a more intensive game here. What was one of them? Gauntlet. G. You go to the G's. The Gauntlet Legends. And as you can see, I went ahead and just used default settings, but it's running it just smoothly. And finally, 3DS. The 3DS emulator is Azahar, a new up-and-comer, but it runs games beautifully. There are some hacks I had to put in, some emulation hacks I had to put in place to run certain games, most notably Digimon World Redigitized Decoded, because of the fact that default settings does not run the cutscenes. I do not know why the cutscenes do not run with default setting, but if you go into the debug menu and set the CPU at 50%, the cutscenes run very smoothly. And I will demonstrate that here by just starting up a new game. Yeah, if I did not put that setting, the cutscene in this game would be like stuttering. And because I really enjoy music in games, and that's a huge part of the experience for me, I can't stand it when I hear sound stutter. And yet here I am stuttering as I talk. And I programmed a hotkey so that way I can just quickly exit out. There we go. I was starting to get worried. But the cutscene works. Hyrule Warriors. Now, like the 3DS, this also has things that will require a tablet, but for now, I can at least play somewhat with this.
Link and his allies were saved from the dangers of the Elven Caves by a mysterious...
This is just beautiful. I love that this emulator, Azahar picked up where Citra left off at, and they have made strides with that work from Citra. And I'm just showing off the cutscene here. It kind of struggles. Oh yeah, it kind of struggles here. I don't think I set the speed hack on it. Yeah, I don't think I set the speed hack on this one. Anyway, we'll go ahead and exit out. And that is all I have to show here. We've gone through all the systems. So we will go ahead and shut down. And with the Rom and Roll, I can just shut down from the controls. And we get to see the cute little logo again as it shuts off. Thank you. That is all I had to show, and I hope this was fun.